All right, welcome everybody. It's 11:30. We'll go ahead and get started with the pre-commission agenda. For the president's report, I'll just remind everybody that this is our last meeting of the year and our last meeting at the Adams facility. Next time we join everybody will be over at the New Meeker headquarters. And I also want to welcome Santa joining us today. I hope everybody can see that. So that's all for me. Is there any general housekeeping or discussion of the agenda from the commission? Okay, seeing none, handing it over to Director Head for the director's report.
Madam President, Commission, Santa Claus, we are excited to be here today. You know, I don't get nervous, but I don't want to end up on the naughty list here. So we are so excited to be here for this meeting. It's been a tremendous year. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I'll have a few items here, and then I'm going to turn the rest of my time over to our walk bike ride review over to give you a summary of the great work done this year. First, we just want to welcome our newest faces here at the Highway District, Danielle, John, Logan, Griffin, and Josiah. Josiah is a return customer because this is an amazing place to work. And we're also very grateful to have Logan, who's joined our team. This is our budget specialist. We'll be working with Christine and helping her with the budget. All of these individuals, we are so grateful for the work that they do and what they bring to the table. Commissioners, we have some an interesting item here to visit with you about today. Our store, as part of our National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permitting for the Clean Water Act, we are responsible for collecting stormwater samples. They have to go through a processing period and making sure that they test and meet the that there are no pollutants or excessive pollutants within the stormwater that comes off our system. We do this both in dry weather testing, as well as we have individuals who go out in the middle of the night, in the middle of storms, to go collect stormwater from a wet system perspective. For many years, the city of Boise, as part of at their stormwater treatment facility, has provided a component of this testing. It's splitting and consolidating and prepping samples for us. However, we received notice from the city of Boise that they are not going to be able to continue doing a majority of that task. They're still going to help us with some things, but they are moving into doing additional industrial wastewater, as well as recycled water, which is going to require more of their staff time and more of their facility utilization. And so in order to be in compliance, we have a need that we need to take on here at the Highway District. This is not just affecting ACHD, this is affecting other government entities. And so they've been doing this for a lot of individuals, and so we're all working on this. And they've agreed to help us through the end of this fiscal year at this point in time. But in order to address that, we are looking at modifying what it was the commercial kitchen at the Meeker site into adding in a controlled lab. We already were working on our standard environmental lab, which is really more of a storage type facility. We bring in those samples, we process them, but the really lab type work was happening at the city of Boise site. But what we are proposing is to demo the existing commercial kitchen, construct the lab spaces there, do the finishing work for that entire space, and relocate utilities and other things. The benefit of doing this in this location is we already have gas, ventilation, water, and so it's really a good place that we can take advantage of all that was already in place there. However, we do need to clean it up and prep it for more of a clean space and that controlled environment for that. This does require the addition of individual to help run this lab. There are time requirements associated with this, so we have specialists who are out there doing the collection, but we do have a time requirement for processing these samples as they come in. And so in this, we are just asking the commission just for that additional authorization to move forward with hiring the FTE, and I'll explain why more in a second, why that's important now. And then we'll evaluate the budgetary impacts of that. We do believe that there's generally cost savings every year from unfilled positions, and so from a budgetary perspective, we think we can generally absorb the addition of this individual here. We've worked with McIlvain, who's still on site as our CMGC. The cost of doing this is currently roughly $488,000. We have cost savings from our existing and current contracts that they would give us a credit of $100,000 back towards this project. And so the change order that will be on my desk this week is $388,000, and we can cover this through some of our reserve funds. Now, that's to get the spaces in place. We've just learned about all of this week, or this last Friday. And so the nice thing is we can take advantage of some things that are already in place. There will be some additional costs just to finalize that lab, and we are working with the consultant and our architect to get those in place. But why is this good now? Because we're in place right now, there's cost savings from having McIlvain already deployed on site. Indicated some lower cost. If we were to wait and do this later, there would be higher costs to redeploy them there. The city of Boise, by bringing on the staff member now, city of Boise is willing to also train our new team member to do this testing. And so with them doing our testing through the end of the fiscal year, we're able to take advantage of that, have a staff member working alongside them so that we can seamlessly take over this task that's ultimately a compliance requirement for us in order to do the work that we do. By moving forward now, as well as a change order, we can get this done in time before Boise stops supporting us. We have available space. We have the utilities available there. And ultimately, it removes a lot of hazards that are there. I had to throw in the picture of the dried hamburger that is still on the grill in that commercial kitchen, because ultimately there's some cleanup that's definitely needed. Otherwise, we would be just shutting the space off until a later date and when we were ready to move forward with something. So future project as far as a kitchen, but ultimately what we're talking about is building out the walls, the spaces for this compliance requirement.
Madam President?
Yep.
Commissioner McKinney.
Director, just a couple of quick questions. You suggested that there were some other agencies as well that have been relying upon the city of Boise for this testing work. Have we talked with those other agencies about the potential of sharing resources to make this possible? Is there a way that perhaps, for example, I wonder, does ACHD on its own need a full lab and a full-time employee? Do we really have that much of that work to do? Or is it the sort of thing where we could potentially take care of our own needs as well as the needs of other agencies and then have some cost sharing in that respect as well?
Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, we will continue to explore that. One of the challenges, the other entities are primarily City of Meridian. I think, who was the other one? Eagle and Star. They are, a lot of the testing that they do is primarily sewer and wastewater versus ours is stormwater. So the testing is a little bit different. But we are continuing conversations with them, and we'll continue to explore any opportunities to co-locate, to share in those resources. Ultimately, though, our needs are a little, we do believe that this does require having a full-time position that helps, that does this work when there are events and when there's a lot of prep work, ongoing testing. There's some even some bacterial testing that will be done there. That's part of our requirements. And then they will be a resource that can assist in some of our environmental team work if there's any additional time available to them. But generally, we do believe this will take the vast majority of a full-time equivalent to manage this lab. So any other questions on this before I move on to a different topic?
Commissioner
President.
Nielsen?
Yeah, thanks, Director. The other question I had is obviously that there's not a third-party lab alternative. And then second, is there possibly collaboration with the U of I Water Center or for grants or lab equipment or any kind of partnership there? So,
Yeah, Madam President, Commissioners, we've explored a lot of these options. We already do. So the samples, they're split, they're prepped, and then they are sent off to a third party lab. That lab is in, I believe in Salt Lake, is where that's located. And so there are no other local sites that do this type of work that we're able to work with for that. But we continue to always look at partnerships and ways to manage this cost. We know that it's always a challenge, adding positions, taking on additional cost. But ultimately, to be in compliance with our permitting, we believe this is a requirement we have to move forward with.
thank you.
But the good news also in that is that we're going to come in under contract with our contracts for the remodel at the building. So that's where some of that savings is coming back that are going to help pay for these costs. So that's a positive thing there. We'll be finalizing that. We'll have to true up some of the budget dollars, but we will be under the contracts the commission has approved. So let's just take a quick look back at the year. I always think this is a good time, and I've looked at this over the last few days, and I've just sighed with exhaustion because of all that we've been able to complete this year. It's been a tremendous year. So the beginning of the year started with the welcoming of Commissioner Nielsen, as well as Commissioner Gold stepping into the president role. We held our first ever press conference here at the Highway District, and that was all associated with that emergency bridge repair closure. Can you believe that was still this year?
Yeah.
That's just amazing. We went into 24-hour operations for a snowstorm that hit us in February, but we also were able to move out of a leased space at Orchard, saving the taxpayers $500,000 a year and moving them into our new headquarters. So that was in February that we first occupied that space. In March, we were able to launch ACHD Connect. What a tremendous impact that this has had on our community, giving tools for the community to be able to demonstrate and connect with us in different ways. We also were successful in working with the legislature, ultimately resulting in tens of millions of dollars coming into the Highway District for additional projects. What a tremendous effort that was. It was a lot of work, but we're so grateful for our partners at the State House, as well as we worked through some other legislative changes there. We kicked off the State and Pierce Park project. That has been a tremendous effort, long in the making, and we are grateful for that. We also saw the Hands Around the Capitol event that happened then. In April, we had the official opening of our Franklin Traffic Operations Center. So a second facility we opened this year. It was a tremendous undertaking and has resulted in great benefits to the Highway District and to the public. We received word that we were going to that we received funding for the Eckert Road Bridge for the full replacement. We completed an equipment rodeo. We had 1,000 potholes filled in our pothole days, and we'll talk a little bit more about all the great work that's happened there this year. In May, we participated in May in Motion and received platinum status. We had our largest Communication Connect event at the TOC. We started off the SPEAR program in the north end with our sweeping to make that more efficient, asking vehicles to park on different streets, depending on the time and when the sweepers are going to be there. We completed the bridge in Star, and we completed the Autosil project on the 8th Street extension. And so a tremendous amount of work that went into all of those different items. In June, we had a bit of a mudslide out on Warm Springs, but we also saw the completion of the Starview project. This has been years in the making, much anticipated by the neighborhood, and that project being completed. We also saw the Aikens extension completed in June. Tremendous work there and benefit as part of that downtown Eagle revitalization and mobility project. We started our Night Glow campaign, showing at movies, both in Meridian as well as in the theaters. And we opened up the 16th and Washington Safety Project. Tremendous amount of work in short amounts of time. In July, we announced the largest federal grant we've ever received at $18.4 million for the Build the Boise Bench project. We literally put out a fire, which was awesome. We also had our family barbecue and the Cone Zone Collective with our partners in Northwest Meridian, making sure that the public is well aware of all that's happening. July, we also talked about some insurance savings and some ways that we're managing the proposed increased costs there. We also had trees go down in Star. It was just a big month in July. August got even busier with the adoption of our budget. The close to or almost the largest budget we've ever adopted here at the Highway District. We also dealt with some of the largest concerts during the Boise Western Idaho Fair. We had some sinkholes that showed up. We were in the river a few times. We had trying to get the railing where people wanted to skateboard into the river. Lots of fun there. And of course, we had the post of all posts that went viral, I will say, with our the life of an operator. In September, we dealt with another sinkhole in downtown Boise on Capitol Boulevard. We had our golf tournament, which we'll be awarding that check today. Exciting about that. We had trolls on Bogus Basin Road that we renovated their home and gave them a better place to live. We completed our chip seal for the year with 309 miles completed. And we kicked off the CIP outreach. In October, we adopted a 5-year plan, and really this brought the end of the fiscal year. And just to note, this year we installed more signs than we've ever installed. We striped more lanes than we've ever striped in a year. We filled more potholes, 13,000 potholes in 1 year. It was a tremendous year for all the work that was done. We also kicked off our winter ops prep. November, continued work in the river, but we saw the end of a 2-year project in downtown Eagle with a ribbon cutting for the downtown Eagle mobility project. And we solved a lot of problems that presented themselves to us, including planes taking down poles and railroads that abandoned some of the work there. And December, of course, brought the adoption of our CIP, bringing additional millions of dollars to the Highway District to complete projects. We also announced the winner of our snowplow, and just yesterday we had team members at the Boise Bicycle Project prepping bikes for the giveaway that's coming up. All wonderful things this year, all fantastic work by the Highway District, and yes, we are tired but ready to go for another year ahead. We're still there. Just a quick few items here. What's coming up. We have our holiday gathering tomorrow. You are very welcome, and we'd hope you join us at noon. Lots of fun to be had there with our team. And then we don't have any more commission meetings, and we hope you'll celebrate the Christmas holiday with your family as well. We will kick off in the 7th of January, which will be our first commission meeting, and that will be a public open house also at our new headquarters. So inviting neighborhoods, partners, development community, all who want to come and see our new headquarters with a few other things here. Lastly, as I wrap up and hand the time over, we just want to say goodbye to this wonderful building that has served us well for over 50 years. My daughter actually did this little drawing, so I had to show that too, because that's really cool. But we're just so grateful for the investment in our new headquarters and all that has been accomplished in this building. The team has done magnificent work with what they had, but we're excited to move on to the next chapter. With that, Commission, I will hand the time over to our walk, bike, ride team, but we'll answer any questions for you.
Any questions? Thanks so much. Thanks so much for the year in review. It's great to see all that work. Welcome.
Hello, Madam President and Commissioners and Santa, thank you for your time. I'm excited to share this update on Walk, Bike, and Ride today. And we're going to be going over our year 2 of our 3-year pilot program. And we're going to start it off with a little video. So that was a little recap of our summer. So it's hard to believe we're in approaching winter now, but a quick overview of our Walk, Bike, and Ride program. It's funded by a federal grant through Compass, and it's designed to encourage residents to explore different ways of getting around their neighborhood. It showcases existing ACHD infrastructure, specifically bike and ped improvements in the area. The program focuses on one neighborhood at a time with a target range of 10,000 households. For 2025, we were anchored in the Collister neighborhood and also included the surrounding areas of Sunset, Northwest, and Pierce Park neighborhoods. And one of my favorite things about the program is that it's built in the community and it's hyper local by design. We work with local artists, small businesses, and community organizations. We partner with the neighborhood associations, and we bring on the local artists to create a custom illustrated neighborhood map that residents can use as they go. And we host events and activities right there in the neighborhood, so it's easy and convenient, same format, same park, same team every time. And here's an example of that illustrated map by local artist Andy Kelly of the Collister and Sunset neighborhood. It showcases some local gems and restaurants, businesses, little libraries, other things that residents can relate to. So when we wrapped up year 1 and we were planning out year 2, there was a few things we really wanted to do was build on the momentum from the first year, which took place in the Central Bench, but we also wanted to increase community engagement. We wanted to create a buzz about the program within the neighborhood. So we planned to mail out a survey, continue to send out free Get Going kits. We planned out our pop-up events, and new this year, we wanted to incorporate a scavenger hunt activity that would include the local businesses and give us an inside scoop of what participants were doing in between the events. Were they actually doing what we were trying to have them do? Were they trying out new modes? We also incorporated the State Street construction project in our plans in the neighborhood to act as a resource and provide residents information on the project that was impacting their neighborhoods that summer. The survey mailer asked residents how they were currently getting around the neighborhood so we can learn their transportation habits. It included information about our upcoming plans. And for those who signed up, we sent out their Get Going kits that included safety items like a bike bell, reflective bracelets, sunglasses, the map, and resources in each kit. And 100% of recipients found that it was beneficial, especially the map. Our Catalpa Park pop-up events were tailored to all ages and all skill levels and gave everyone an opportunity to try out new modes with hands-on practice with a local instructor. We also hosted food trucks at these events and gave out meal vouchers so families could enjoy dinner at the park while attending the event in order to remove that barrier of trying to get dinner on the table so they could focus on the activity at hand. We also hosted an ice cream social event in the Northwest neighborhood at a park and ride lot to bring a one-stop resource event to the other side of our target area. So here was our full park pop-up lineup. We started out with Learn to Skateboard, where people of all ages could hop on a board, try out different boards, and learn tips and tricks of skateboarding. We also brought in a dog trainer for an event where people could bring their dogs and learn the basics of leash walking. Our ice cream social included VRT, Compass, Commuter Ride, ACHD, and of course the mini street sweeper. In July, in 100-degree weather, we hosted a group bike ride in the area that included free bike tune-ups. We brought in a local artist to guide the community through a rock painting party so people could experience the joy of hiding and finding rocks as you're walking around your neighborhood. Bus Day Ever brought in VRT, and we took event attendees on the local bus route and also down to the Main Street station downtown. And then we ended our summer lineup with a Safe Routes to School bike rodeo, complete with an ACHD tanker truck that hosed off the riders in the hot summer heat while they were learning the rules of the road. And then here is Cody, ACHD's accessibility and mobility supervisor. He was actually he co-led the group bike ride, and he had a full circle roundabout moment. When he first started at ACHD, he was intrigued by the dog bone roundabout and its unique shape. And the dog bone was a highlight of the group ride. He actually presented on that project during the group ride. But a key moment for him was seeing a young rider in her mini speed bike taking over the lane as the whole group took over the dog bone, and she was pedaling at what seemed to be 1,000 RPMs around the dog bone. So we really wanted to know, we here at ACHD get excited about roadway and bike and pedestrian infrastructure, but how can we get the community? And the answer for us was Goose Chase. It's a self-paced summer-long scavenger hunt. It's app-based, so people could participate on their phone. The missions were family-friendly and featured local businesses who welcome in participants with offering small prizes like stickers or even discounts. We were able to gamify the activity with points, prizes, and a leaderboard. We also gave out tie-dye t-shirts to participants so we could build that camaraderie. But above all, we saw a huge boost in engagement and user-generated content. Most of the pictures in this slide deck are from the Goose Chase participants. And we were able to see that people were actually participating. They were actually trying out new modes in between the events we were hosting. So we were able to bring in education and awareness to the community by helping residents learn about ACHD's safety features, including the reason behind them. So we added in fun facts or the reason why things were, the safety features around their neighborhood. We were able to highlight local aspects like Bob's voice on the APS signals, the dog bone roundabout, of course, local bike facilities, and more. It encouraged an appreciation for the thought behind the engineering that makes our streets safer. And the result was we did see that huge increase in community engagement, but also the community started spotting things that used to blur in the background. So they started noticing the bulb outs, the PHBs, the APSs, the sparkly glass beads in the lane markings, the bike ped counters, object marker 3s, of course, delineators, and detectables. And they were excited about it. Here we have a few people geeking out over bulb outs and even someone excited about seeing the storm drain basin in action. So we got to see that excitement and enthusiasm. It also offered a unique educational opportunity like building road models where people learned about the layers of the road and built them themselves. We got poems and haikus about school bus zone safety, and then the participants also played new renditions of Red Light, Green Light. We also got to meet Linda, who lives in the Northwest neighborhood and works at BSU. She first started participating in walk, bike, and ride and increased her bike riding around the neighborhood and then started biking to work. She tried out the local bus route when we had a mission called Mode Swap Madness, and then she even mastered how to load her bike up onto the bike rack on the buses. During the summer, she ended up giving up her car for the summer and described her commute as relaxing and peaceful as she biked and bused to work. So I did leave out a handout for you all, but for the numbers, we had 520 participants, 400 Get Going kits were mailed out. We hosted 7 events with over 528 attendees. 114 Goose Chase teams completed over 3,700 missions, and 65% of participants tried out a new mode. And we saw a 74% increase in positive perception of ACHD in our post-program survey. Another highlight is we also had participants try out ACHD tools. So they actually met Rita, the road work in the area map. They signed up for text notifications. They tried out ACHD Connect. They learned about their maintenance zones, where their storm drains were, why we need to keep those clear and clean, about the Adopt a Highway and the traffic cameras. This program also allows for a great collaboration for those within the other teams in ACHD. So communications, projects and planning, GIS, traffic ops, safety engineering. We also got to see President Gold at some of our events. Thank you for coming. As well as work with some of our partners. And then here are about a dozen businesses participated in the Goose Chase scavenger hunt. And so participants loved popping into some of their local businesses in their neighborhood. And so right now we're gearing up for 2026, which will be year 3 of the 3-year pilot program. We're finalizing what neighborhood we're going to be in by chatting with our internal stakeholders and community partners. We've hired on a local artist for next year. We've brought in 2 new community partners, and now we're just looking at what kind of events and activities we're going to host, and we're going to rock it in year 3. That's all I have. Oh, and the fun photo.
Well, thanks so much, Rebecca, to you and all the walk, bike, ride team. I thought it was a huge success, and I know you see that in all the positive comments from folks in the neighborhood, and I think it's a really fun and important way to continue to engage folks and inform them, and yeah, get them involved with ACHD. So thanks for all your effort on that and the recap of the whole summer. All right, it is 12:02, so we'll go ahead and get started with the regular agenda. I'll call the meeting to order and welcome everybody joining us in person and online, and ask you to please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first item is to adopt the agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion, any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a commissioner or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. All consent agenda items are commission action items unless noted. We do have a request from staff to remand item number 5 back to staff, but otherwise no other request I'm aware of. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
Madam President,
Commissioner McKinney.
I move that we remand item 5 on the consent agenda to staff and approve the remainder of the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next up is the regular agenda. First item is key number 24294 North Black Cat Road and Union Pacific Railroad, Boise Valley Railroad Crossing Project State and Local Agreement with ITD. Diane.
President Gold, Commissioners, for the record, Diane Bevins, Deputy Director of Projects. Just to give you a little bit more information about this item. As President Gold said, this is for a state local agreement with ITD for the Black Cat Railroad crossing, and this is, as you can see on the screen, just north of Franklin Road. Today it's stop controlled, so mainly based for sight distance. So this project would change it to signals, gate arms, improve the crossing service and the approaches. So the city of Meridian approached us just a few months ago, wanting to financially participate if we could move the project forward. So we started working, our staff started working with ACHD and ITD, and they found a way. They were able to shuffle some projects around and move this project forward. So we have design in FY26 and construction in FY27. This project is 100% federally funded, so there's no match. And IT is also partnering with us to do the environmental documentation and approvals. ASHD will manage the design and the construction inspection, and the total cost is about $655,000. And I will stand for any questions.
Diane, are there any questions? All right. Is there a motion on this item?
Yes, Madam President,
Commissioner McKinney.
I would move that we approve the key number 24294 Black Cat Road and Union Pacific Railroad, Boise Valley Railroad, state and local agreement with ITD.
Great.
I'll second it.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Dan. All right. Item number 2 on the regular agenda is authorization order of condemnation, Linder Road, Overland Road to Franklin Road, project number 522038. And this is a public hearing, so I will go ahead and open that and turn it over to Dave Sartor.
Thank you, Madam President, Commissioners. For the record, David Serdar, right-of-way supervisor for the Ada County Highway District. This is a public hearing and decision briefing for a condemnation on the Linder Road, Overland to Franklin project. The parcel is owned by Paola L. Silva and Maria de Rojas Navarro. This project is part of ACHD's adopted 2026 to 2030 5-year plan. Construction is scheduled to begin in fiscal year 26. Property is located just north of I-84. You can see that on the bottom of the picture there. And then the street is on Linder, and then you can see Waltman there. It's on the west side of the road. Here's a more close-up view of the property. It is in an area that'll be greatly impacted by the project, and it does require the full house to be acquired. Our actual back of walk will be approximately 10 feet from the house. So, or the multi-use path will actually be 10 feet from the back from the house. So it's fairly close. Size of the property before the acquisition is 0.94 acres or just under a full acre. And once again, the entire property is to be acquired. ACHD originally mailed the offer in May of 2024. ACHD has been working to solve relocation hurdles on this property. I can tell you staff continues to work with property owners on a daily basis, including multiple communications in the last several days. But as of right now, there has been no solution or no agreement has been reached. It is staff recommendation that the commission declare the acquisition area as necessary for the project as a right-of-way for public use, authorize the staff to proceed with the condemnation action, and execute the order of a condemnation for the acquisition area. Once again, as always, ACHD staff will continue to negotiate to a resolution through this process. I will remain standing for any questions the commission has.
Are there any questions for staff?
Madam President?
Commissioner McKinney.
Dave, let me just ask on this one, as far as the current status of negotiations with the property owner. Is it simply a matter now of coming to an agreement on a number? Is that basically where we are, or are there other issues?
Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, this is entirely a number of negotiation at this point.
Okay.
Any other questions for Dave? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Invite the property owner up for any comments if they're here. Okay, and then this is a public hearing, so any members of the public who want to come up and speak on this? All right, seeing none, close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission.
Madam President, I'll go ahead and make a motion. Before I do, it's worth pointing out every time that anytime there's a condemnation action, it's simply the next step in the process of coming to an agreement with the property owners. So this is not an end of the process. It's simply the next step so that we can hopefully get to an agreement. I move that we approve the order of condemnation for the Linder Road, Overland Road to Franklin project number 522038, parcel number 6.
There's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, that moves us to discussion items and public communications. Do we have any members of the public in person or online who wish to address the commission? All right, seeing none, meeting is adjourned. That moves us to our post-commission agenda. We've got a few work sessions. First up is a presentation of 2025 ACHD Charity Golf Tournament. Presentation by Stacy.
Thank you, Madam President and Commission. I invite everybody that's here from the golf tournament, and our golf committee to come on up as well with us. Just come up and just stand up and just kind of gather. Well, this year, we had our annual charity golf tournament back in September. It seems like a long time ago. We got everything settled and we wanted to make sure that we presented the check again to our charities. Our charities this year, we had Raise for Rare, and they support families of medically fragile children that after they're done with the hospital and coming home, they also help with the families as a whole and really do great work. And then we also have Wish Granters. They are a Meridian-based charity that help families and grant wishes for adults that are entering their last stages of life. So it's a lot of really good work that it takes special people to make these things happen. And we really, really appreciate the work that that they do. We had a really great tournament, and at the tournament, we presented a wonderful check in the amount of $225,000. I'm happy to say that once we settled all the books, we are up to $230,000. So a little bit extra, and making sure that we do a big shout out to our tournament sponsors, TDS, Yaker Family Trust, and of course, McIlvain, as well as our community sponsor, Van Acker Family Foundation. They do really present a lot of that in number, as well as all of our title sponsors, our whole sponsors, and everybody that participates in the day of. Steve Price is our fearless chairman, and so is Dean Cooper, and as well as Karen Farmer, Christine Tandler, Joe Schoen. Couldn't do it without them, so big round of applause to everybody. We'd love a picture with the commission and both charities. Or would you
It's
like us?
Santa.
Santa.
Check.
All right, next up, we've got winter operations overview. Welcome, Tom Audi, for this one.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the commission, Mr. Claus. For the record, Tom Audi, Deputy Director of Operations, and I'm going to talk to you about winter operations today. So as you may or may not know, our mission in winter operations is to facilitate the safest possible travel conditions for the public, utilizing all of our available tools and resources. That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to have a perfectly clear road, but we're going to make the safest situation we can out of the snow situation. We do have our two locations, Adams and Cloverdale. Combined, we have 89 total units that will be involved in winter operations this year. 41 of those are plows, with 176 team members ready to utilize that equipment, and also contractors on call if a storm dictates that requirement. For material storage between our three locations at Adams, Cloverdale, and our White Pit storage location, we can store roughly 335,000 gallons of magnesium chloride. That's our pre-treatment to prevent ice from forming. And then our post-treatment would be our sand salt mix of 4,000 tons between Adams and Cloverdale, and our pure salt of 6,500 tons between Adams, Cloverdale, and our White Pit location. When it comes to what roads we treat in what order, our priority one are always going to be our major arterials, collectors, major intersections, overpasses, bridges, hospitals, fire stations, railroad crossings, school crossings, and street with grades over 6%. Those are the ones that are, again, are going to facilitate the best commute that we possibly can for the commuting public. Moving on to two would be our priority school bus routes. Those were identified by our partners at the school districts, and our superintendents, not the school superintendents, but our actual site superintendents will decide when to implement that priority two. And then our priority three would be residential streets and cul-de-sacs as well. How do we let people know what's going on? Well, our phenomenal communications team actually sends out a lot of information throughout the year. They have their neighborhoods in the know event to let neighborhoods know what to expect in a snow event. They also have flyers that go out to HOAs to communicate with businesses. They have direct communication, Chamber of Commerce reminders, email campaigns, and flyers. And then you get to see my smiling face on the news a whole bunch pre-snow and anytime there's a snow event, telling people what to expect, what we're doing, where we're doing it, safety to make sure they can get to work safely, what to do around plows, really anything we can think of. And if the media would really like to, they can get into ride-alongs with our plows to see how they work in action. And we also send out some pre-arranged story packages for the media so that they really can get a better understanding of what we do and how we do it. And I will stand for any questions.
Thanks, Tom. Are there any questions for Tom? Commissioner Nielsen?
Are we really gonna have snow this winter?
Thank you, President. Bill, Commissioner Nielsen, I hope not down here. In the mountains, snow as much as possible. I don't want anything down here.
Madam President, this follow-up, I just hope if it does snow, it avoids the weekend so the staff can be with their families.
I would,
Holidays,
I would
yeah.
absolutely mirror your sentiments 110%.
Well, if you can just, predict the weather, then that's helpful, right?
If-
Yeah.
I will look to the director to see if I have that power to dictate weather. That's a no, so I will do what the weather does.
Great. All right, well, that's all for winter operations then. We'll move on to ACHD dumping and solid waste, and Tom again.
Yep, so back to back. So, good afternoon, Madam President, Commissioners, Mr. Claus again. For the record, still Tom Audi, Deputy Director of Operations, and I'm going to talk to you about solid waste here at the Highway District. So ACHD generates generally three types of waste: construction and demolition material. That's what you'll see from road repair and construction projects, maintenance projects like that. It will primarily consist of concrete, asphalt, sand, things of that nature. Industrial waste is material that we usually generate at a site when we're prepping for things. So it'll consist of non-hazardous material that can go into a regular trash can, but is not generated at a site, generally speaking, where we're working, but a home site. And then lastly, grit, which is what we pick up off the road in our street sweepers. Traditionally, we had a no-fee agreement that was entered into with Ada County in 2013 between the two entities. Separately from that, ACHD and the landfill entered into an agreement for the use of sweeper waste as an alternative daily cover. Landfill doesn't actually use sweeper waste as an alternative daily cover any longer, but we still, because we agreed to that testing criteria, we still go through that testing for our sweeper waste when it's dumped at the landfill. It requires us to test quarterly, and we save roughly $700,000 in tipping fees every year not having to pay for waste that we dispose. The Ada County landfill recently reached out to us about modifying that no fee agreement and having ACHD pay its tipping fees. The landfill did state that while we would pay those tipping fees, they would look for a credit to be calculated and issued at the end of each fiscal year. Most fiscal years, that will be an extremely small credit issued back to the district, and in some years, it will be absolutely nothing. Separate from that no fee agreement, there's also a new regulatory enforcement update that I'd like to talk to you about today. With IDEQ notifying us that our 23rd and Front location can no longer be used to store leaf material that is collected by our street sweepers during our leaf season. For those of you that don't know, in the fall and usually through winter, unless there is snow on the ground, lots of leaves fall throughout Ada County, and we pick them up with our street sweepers and dispose of them per requirement, so they're not going into the storm drain systems. Right now, all of our leaf material must be containerized wherever it is, unless it's at a tier 1 site, which would be our Adams or our Cloverdale sites, where we can prevent any water from escaping those sites through our current engineered systems on site. This also required us to update our solid waste plan to designate where material will go and to state that we will be containerizing all that material. So the financial impacts of these two systems separately would be roughly $700,000 annually, starting at the beginning of FY27. Ada County has at least proposed that we would go through this fiscal year as normal, and then in FY27 we would start having to pay those tipping fees, and then the purchase of new equipment for being able to containerize and move all that material as necessary. Those would be one-time costs that we would look to budget into the FY27 budget, so it's nothing you have to worry about right now with adjustments or anything. We would budget to get that material, but we would need a roll-off truck to move our large boxes, roughly 40 cubic yard containers to contain all that material, a motor unit so that we could actually pull the walking floor trailer that we would need to dump at the Ada County landfill, and then an additional walking floor trailer to actually bring that material up. I do want to let you know that we have a couple options when it comes to landfilling material. There is a new private landfill that is opening up in Elmore County. They anticipate being able to take waste in Q1 of next year, January, not our Q1, sorry. That landfill would require less testing because there wouldn't be that alternative daily cover testing piece. It would just be the EPA requirement of annual waste profiling, so we wouldn't have to test near as often. It's a majority of freeway driving because it's just off the freeway up to that Simcoe Road area out there where the Idaho Waste Systems landfill is. But the waste will leave Ada County. Continuing to use the Ada County landfill, the waste will stay in Ada County. It is a majority of surface street driving, which does lead to a few more hazards when toting a 48-foot trailer. It does keep our current procedures in place with waste disposal, although we will be adding that walking floor trailer, and all those fees generated stay in Ada County. With both of those options presented to you, our goal would be to use both landfills depending on location, cost, and efficiency with what we're doing and where we're doing the work. Next step would be to have staff continue negotiating with the Ada County landfill. We'd begin speccing out that new equipment for purchase in FY27, and then to explore all landfill options that are available to the district moving forward. And I will stand for any questions.
Commissioner Goldthorpe?
Yes, I'm a bit surprised about this new tipping fee expense. Historically, for as long as I've been here, which is almost exactly 11 years, when taxing entities have fees for each other, we waive them. What's changed?
Thank you, President Gold. Commissioner Goldthorpe, it's just, the landfill has just come to us wanting to, it looks like, just be able to collect some of that revenue. The fees that we waive do not equal the revenue that the landfill is not receiving.
Well, I understand that. It's never been a tit for tat, or we gave you this waiver, we need this waiver. It's never been like that. It's just been forgiven.
Yeah, Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, it's a great point. In our conversations with the landfill, we've had several meetings with the director of the Ada County landfill. They have voiced concern about this essentially inequity between the benefit that each agency is receiving. We wanted to bring you this today to daylight this topic. Nothing has changed yet. We have a draft agreement from them that would ultimately need to be signed by the commission before this goes into effect. But in the agreements as they're written today, either agency has the ability to essentially terminate the agreement with proper written notice. They're indicating that they want to change this. Potentially a good topic for a joint meeting with the Ada County Commissioners if the commission wants to engage with the commissioners on this. We haven't had that engagement with the commission directly. We've only been working with the director of the Ada County landfill.
Yeah, I'm sure the commission knows about this. And I do think that this is something that we need to appeal to the commission directly. Also, if nothing works, then perhaps we need to figure out going forward what kind of impact fees and other fees that we've been forgiving to the county going forward that maybe we shouldn't.
Yeah, members of the commission, we have done a historic look at, benefits from a fee perspective that Ada County has received versus what ACHD has received. I think it's fair to say that they have received more benefit largely due to these tipping fees. We have, in recent years, waived impact fees for their new coroner's office and things like that. So there have been some back and forth, but in the aggregate, and this is based on the data that we've looked at and worked on with the landfill director, it is more benefit that ACHD is receiving on a regular annual basis, just due to the amount of trips that we take to the landfill and the amount of tipping fees that could be recovered through the landfill if ACHD were to pay those fees. But the wisdom of paying those fees, who should be responsible between two government agencies. We're both countywide organizations. We both have similar jurisdictions. We wanted to daylight this because we think the commission, if you want to engage with the county commissioners on this, we can find a format and a way to make that happen.
I think that would be wonderful.
Okay.
Does the $700,000 annual tipping fee, does that reflect some kind of fee that the county is responsible for? Or, I mean, like where does that number come from?
So when we haul waste up to the landfill, we have a dump truck full of stuff. We go in, everything is weighed that goes into the landfill, so they weigh it. The tipping fee is essentially the cost of the weight plus whatever type of material it is. There's a calculation that they do. So when we go in there today, we roll up, they calculate what they would charge us, and then they just don't charge us because it's an ACHD truck and we roll on in. So that's how that's calculated, and that's why it's a pretty substantial amount of money. What they are offering, what they're proposing with this credit system, I think staff finds that to be a little complicated. If we were to go into a credit system, maybe there's a different way to look at this. Maybe it's not a 100% discount. Maybe it's some other type of discount. Those are things we haven't engaged yet with the county commission on. I think ultimately any change to the agreement would be signed by both elected bodies, and we just wanted to highlight this and daylight it. I think the landfill, they're an enterprise agent, that's an enterprise of the county. And so they're looking at their finances and how all this works. And I think this is just one of the different topics that they're working on as they look at overall landfill operations.
Thank you. Any other
Madam
questions?
President?
Commissioner McKinney?
Yeah, I wonder if we could go back a couple of slides to where those cost numbers are. I'd like to see those again. Okay, so it looks like we've got some one-time costs that come up to about, what is that? That's about $1 million for new equipment, and then a $700,000 annual amount. So we're looking at almost 2 million right off the bat, at least 1.7 million right off the bat, and then an ongoing expense of another 700,000 each year going forward is what we're looking at. So I think definitely we need to talk with 80 county commissioners and the landfill people and see if we can come to some sort of well, at least discuss this, because this is obviously a significant expense.
I do want to highlight it's two issues. We've brought them together today. They are somewhat separate. The tipping fees are one part of this issue. The other issue relates to this regulatory requirement of no longer being able to store the sweeper waste directly on the ground at various sites across the county, primarily in the downtown area. So now when the sweeper, we used to be able to consolidate the sweeper material into one kind of centralized location, and our dump trucks would be able to kind of as they were available, make those runs to the landfill to dump that sweeper waste. Now with the ability that we don't have to consolidate that waste at for example, the site at 27th in front, so 23rd or 27th? 23rd in front. We can't consolidate it and build it up and do it at our leisure. We have to actually put it in containers. We actually, because this DEQ requirement, they're, being very serious about the enforcement of this. It does relate to some activities with ITD and others that DEQ is focusing on this issue more. So we actually now have a current contract with Republic Services to do this, and it's extremely expensive to have a private contractor and rent these bins and then pay them to haul for us. And so this cost is new for sure, but with this increased enforcement action from DEQ, we really don't have a choice. We have to be in compliance with our permits. This all relates to our stormwater permits and everything else. And so this is a new effort we have to undertake. So the tipping fees are one aspect of it, and that has to do with Ada County. The need to containerize and haul our sweeper waste in a different way than we have in the past is more related to an increased enforcement action from DEQ.
So all of the new equipment one-time costs are not something that we're talking about discussing with the county commissioners, because that's related to the landfill and tipping fees
Madam
that are-
President, absolutely correct. I think if we're going to have a discussion with the county commissioners, it would be specifically related to the tipping fees.
Madam President, if I may,
Commissioner McKinney.
one more question, just to be clear then, the consolidation and so on with the leaf waste and so on, is that related to the location where it's being done, or is that simply the same problem would exist no matter where this was being done?
Yeah, I'll have Tom. He'll answer that question
Okay,
from an
that's great.
operation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Commissioner McKinney, it's a twofold piece. So we can't consolidate that material anywhere other than a documented tier 1 site. So we'd have to take it back to either our Adams or Cloverdale location to consolidate, and then it will have to sit, but we can't do it anywhere else in the county. It has to be containerized unless it is sitting at a tier 1 site.
Okay, so if we looked at the feasibility of then consolidating at the other sites that are available, or is it just not feasible to do that?
With the volume of material, it's just not feasible to do that. It would severely impact efficiency first, but just from a volume standpoint, it's just not feasible to do that with the amount of space we'd end up taking up at our current locations.
Is it possible, would we have space at our new Apple location?
Well, I'd have to look into that a little bit more. We would have some space, just like we do at our Adams location. You're just talking literally thousands of cubic yards of material.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, thanks.
Commissioner Nielsen?
Yeah, Tom, I'm wondering, and I just want to say, I know the county landfill is very professionally run. The Ada County has a very robust solid waste plan. I know a couple years ago in their budget hearings, their clerk brought up the lifespan of their landfill, and so I think that's something we need to look at as well. But do we have any, since we haven't paid, but as we've increased lane miles, I would think even the 700,000 could move north as we add more roads to the system that we have to maintain. Do we have any kind of trend history of what's been waived in the past? Did it start out at maybe it was 300,000 and here it's 700, and would that number grow as we add lane miles?
Thank you, Madam President. Commissioner Nielsen, we do have that. I don't have it right off the top of my head. It has increased I have the past 4 years worth of data. It has increased over the past 4 years, but it's not a linear increase based on lane miles. A lot of it really has to do with what work is taking place where in the right of way.
Thanks.
Commissioner Goldthorpe?
I would guess that in a year like we had with Snowmageddon, when we had many times the
Yeah.
amount of waste swept back up in the spring that we'd had in years past, that might cause something like this to increase exponentially.
Commissioner Goldthorpe, you're very correct. If we're doing substantially more sweeping, if there's flooding events, things of that nature that take more sweeping, that material will increase substantially.
All right, any other questions for Tom? All right, thanks so much for bringing this to our attention. Agree that conversation with the county commission, joint meeting is probably on the near horizon. All right, next up, we've got a meet and greet with Leadership ACHD. So that's all for the meeting today, and we will see you all back in the new year.